Okay, welcome back to Terminal Garage. So today I'm going to finally carry back on with this Subaru Sambar Rescue. In the last video, you see I got this thing running. It was super rich. I believe the float in the float bowl is not working properly. Something in there because it just kept pumping fuel into the carburetor and it was pouring out on the intake side or on the air inlet side of the carburetor. So there's definitely something wrong with that carburetor. So with that said, I'm going to be popping this carburetor off and see if I can figure out what's wrong with it, taking the carburetor apart, and at the same time, I've got a few other loose ends to tie up on here. I want to get this thing running to the point where I can drop the box back on. So that's my goal today in this video. It might be over a few days, but it's to get this engine finally running properly, and it's going to start with the carburetor. So fingers crossed I can fix this thing, and if not, I'm going to be looking for another carburetor. So let's get to it. So to pull the carburetor off these, it's pretty simple. You've got a couple of coolant lines here. You've got obviously your throttle cable. You've got 3 hoses go onto it. And other than that, 2 14mm nuts and the carburetor will come off. So it's actually pretty easy to remove, especially when you've got the engine exposed like this with the box off the truck. But I'll just pop this off right now and then get it up on the bench. Okay, so I got the float bowl off, and if you remember from the video where I was working on the carburetor, there's just 4 screws that hold the float bowl on. There's also the accelerator pump that you need to disconnect from the linkage, which goes on this little pin right here. So you got to remove the screw, this one right here, which goes into this boss, holds this little bit of linkage there. Once you get that out of the way, it comes off. And then it's just a matter of removing the float from the, take this pin out, and the float comes out. Don't forget, when you take that off, you've got this little aluminum weight and more importantly, this ball. You don't want to lose that ball from that check valve. It goes down inside here. So I almost lost it. I forgot. So anyway, there's only 2 things really in my mind that could be wrong. Either the float does not float or the needle valve is not sealing on the seat. So this little needle valve here, if I can focus on that. Yeah. So the easiest thing, of course, to check is the float. I'll just get a little container of fuel, drop this in, see if it floats. It probably will. I suspect the problem is here, but we'll go with the easy fix first. All right, I got a glass bowl here with the floats in it. I didn't tell the other half I took one of her bowls because she'd probably get upset with me, but glass will clean up okay. So let's put some gasoline in here and see if she floats. It definitely floats. All right, I got the carburetor back on, and I couldn't find anything wrong with the needle valve in the seat. I put my mouth on it and blew on it and pushed the valve closed. It seemed to hold well. So I put it back together to see, if it's working. But now I have a problem with the battery terminals. It wouldn't turn over though. Oh my God, is it seized? The engine seized? But no, the engine spins freely. And this thing was so badly corroded, this battery terminal. I'm going to have to go buy another one and put it on here. So I'm dead in the water for today. I've got the battery charging here. It doesn't really need it, but let's put it on a trickle charge. But yeah, I'm going to have to go get a new battery terminal. I think it's too late for today, so I'll have to carry on with this tomorrow. All right, I picked up a couple new battery terminal clamps here, so I can get these things installed and see if this thing turns over better. If it doesn't, then it's probably the ground on the engine because I did paint that valve cover. It could be a bad ground on there, but these need to be done anyway, so let's get to this. Battery's all hooked up. Let's see if this thing will turn over a little bit better now. I know the battery's fully charged. Now, there's a problem. I'm hoping it's the ground, so I'm going to just make sure this ground on the engine is really good and then go from there. All right, I tried that. It didn't work. Still, it's just the same, so I think there's actually a problem with this starter. So I'm going to pop this starter out and see what the hell's going on here. All right, so I put my jumper cables on this starter and it is very tight. There's something wrong with the starter, so I'm going to have to pull this apart and see what's going on. I didn't really want to have to get into this, but it is what it is. So I'm going to pull a starter apart and see if the bushings or whatever are
seizing up in there. Might need oiling. I don't know. See what I find. Okay, so I've popped the starter apart, got the motor off, and judging by the amount of carbon and black that's in here, I strongly suspect the brushes are gone, which would explain why it doesn't want to go. So next thing I'll do is pop these 2 screws off, pull the end piece off, and that'll expose the brushes. All right, I popped this little plastic cover, goes on the end. There's a little circlip on here that holds the shaft. I think that will just make the shaft come out, but I'm going to take these Phillips head. I already cracked them with a little socket or a little ratchet to get those screws loose. So I suspect this armature is going to be in bad shape. That is going to hold this cover on. There we go. Clip, and then a washer. And just take this whole thing right out of here. So, ooh, that armature is in rough shape. Let's see if I can show you guys. Yeah, you can see there's some pretty serious arcing going on in there. I can spin that up on my lathe and machine it, but that arcing is really gone into there. So that is a sign that the brushes are also pretty much non-existent. But man, there's a lot of black crap in here. I'm wondering, I might pull my other starter that I had apart that was underwater. I bet you it's better shape than this. Wouldn't that be nice if I can just use that one? See if I can pop this out somehow. There we go. There's our brushes. Right there. That brush, there is not much left of that. These 2, not bad actually, but this one looks like it's arced up pretty good. So I think I'll put this to the side, and I'm going to get my other starter, pull it apart, and see if this armature is any better. All right, so I got this starter all cleaned up, obviously minus the armature. I haven't looked at that yet, but I just wanted to get all the grease and carbon more than anything out, so it's just a little cleaner. So now I got the original starter that came off this little truck. I'm going to pop this thing apart, and yeah, hopefully the armature is good in this one. Okay, fast forward, I just popped this one apart. So looking at the brushes, they were a bit seized in there from corrosion, but see if you can see, the face of the brushes actually are very good, and there's more material left than on this one. This one down here is very short, and they're pretty rough. So these are actually a nicer set of brushes than in that other starter, and as is the armature. It's actually better shape. The Bendex is completely seized. So I don't know. I'm definitely gonna be able to get one good starter out of these 2. I'm just got to decide what I'm gonna do. If I decide to put this in my lathe and turn this, because that pitting is, oh yeah, no, that is bad. That's gonna have to be turned so far down that it would be too thin. I think this armature is history. So yeah, I'm probably gonna have to save this one, which is not gonna be hard. It's just a matter of taking this apart, get it off, and actually probably just take the Bendex off this one, clean the shaft up and everything. So there you go. Yeah, I'm gonna see where I get to here, but this was the problem why it wasn't turning over. Okay, so I took the old armature, dialed it up in my 4-jaw. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take a skim on this and just see how bad this is. Yeah, so I'm just gonna put a center drill in the end, and then I can use my live center to support it when I do the machining. All right, so I got the center in there now, and now I'm going to take a nice little skim cut, see how this looks. See, it's definitely better. There's still a few pits. I took about 10,000ths of an inch off, so it's actually better than I thought it was. So I'll hit this with a bit of 600 just to polish it, but then you got to get those little rags that are in between the contacts there. You got to get those deburred. So it takes a bit of time to take a scraper and just scrape those very carefully. I might take another cut. Maybe take another 2-3 thousandths of an inch off, see what it looks like. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. There's a few little pits in there, but overall, I mean, much better. So I'm going to go ahead and scrape every little groove, if you will, with a little threading tool. You just drag it along. Takes a little bit of time, but I'll get that done, and I think I'll just reuse this one. All right, so I've gone through and deburred this, and while it kind of looks like there might be copper between the two, there's not. It's just a bit of a reflection. The pitting is still there in some spots, but I think it's going to be like that one right there. That looks like there's copper, but there isn't. It's a reflection. I cleaned all those nice. So now I'm going to throw this back in, and yeah, let's see if this thing works. So the brushes from the rusty nasty one, the original starter, they're actually still good. And what I did is I put some penetrating oil on here and wiggled them back and forth to loosen them all up because there's a bit of rust. And then I hit it with a brake clean to get all that off because I don't want any oil or lubricant in here. I think it should be dry. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's what I'm doing. So the brushes I'm going to reuse. Also, I got the Bendex off here, so that's actually nice because now I can clean inside here and re-grease this to make sure that it's all nice and clean. So anyway, that's what we do now is put this all, re-grease some few things and put it all back together. So when you're doing this, probably the worst part of the whole job is getting this little spring retaining ring, I guess you could say, onto the shaft. Off the shaft is a pain in the butt, and getting it back on. I thought getting it off was bad. Getting it on is probably worse. Anyway, this basically slides over top of it like that. So now this is the stop for when the Bendex comes out. That's as far as it goes. So I'm going to get the rest of the starter put back together. I think I'll do a time lapse on this. All right, so that's the starter put back together. Really not too terribly bad. The hardest part was getting the brushes pulled back. So I don't know if you noticed, I'll use the other one as an example. You can basically get a small screwdriver through this slot and pry the brushes back so you can slide this cover on over top of the armature. So anyway, instead of I'm going to live dangerously. I'm pretty sure this spins nice and freely. I'm pretty sure this is going to work fine. I'm not going to try it with jumper cables. I'm going to put it straight in the truck and try to start the thing, see what happens. Okay, so the starter's in, battery's hooked up. Let's see what happens. No camera trickery here. We're just going to see if this works. It's either going to be great or it's going to be a fail, and I'll pull it out and figure out what's wrong. All right, let's see. Whoop, whoop. Well, crap. The Bendex isn't working. Well, that's not too bad. That's just, oh yeah, I can't get at those bolts. Ah, crap. I wonder why that's not, it's spinning. The motor spins nice and freely, but the Bendex isn't sliding. All right, so I've tried a few things. I've had it in and out a couple of times now. I've tried a different solenoid. This is the one from the other starter up here, and it still doesn't work, and I'm wondering if somehow maybe this is in backwards. This is a little piece that operates the Bendex like that. I don't think I got it in wrong, but maybe I did. So I'm going to have to open this thing up, see what's going on. All right, I think I know what the problem was. I have taken this thing apart and figured out what the heck is going on. And this little piece here, believe it or not, was my clue. On there, you can see a little, let's get this thing to focus, sort of a tab and a bit of a mark there. Turns out, this piece here, I had this reversed. It was on this way instead of this way. And the little grooves, Anyway, the little groove, there's a mark on here, and they just weren't lining up. And that's when I realized, holy crap, I might have that backwards. So I swapped the magnetic field, if you will, around the other way. So I'm gonna set the camera up here and see if that worked. I think that is, I mean, other than that, I don't know what the heck else it could be. So stand by. Just walk over here. Battery's hooked up. Let's see if it works. Come on, please. Oh my, listen to that. Oh, man, that turns over way faster than it did with the other starter. Or with the starter the way it was. So turning that armature and putting the brushes on from the other starter has definitely fixed it. That's awesome. All right, I think I've got the fuel pump. Yeah, I do. I'm going to turn this thing over and just see if the fuel gets to it and it'll fire up. I think I got the coil and everything is, yeah, she's all hooked up. It should fire up. See if that repair I did to the carburetor works or if it's going to flood again. Yeah, that's not good. That's running pure fuel again. So let me just disconnect this fuel pump and let's burn that fuel off. God, that's so loud. I got to put the muffler on this thing. This one more time. All right, so yeah, that carburetor is not playing nice. It's overflowing the float bowl and filling the carb with too much fuel. Oh God, I gotta open the doors here. Hold on. Solved one problem. Starter's fixed, but the carburetor is still, yeah, there's a problem. And I'm not too sure why it's doing that.
Okay, so I think that's actually going to do it for this video. It's actually gone on a bit longer than I anticipated. That starter was an unforeseen thing, but hey, now you guys get to see, what it takes to take a starter apart and, what it takes to fix it. So that was a good one to get done. The carburetor, I don't know what I'm going to do there. I've got a line on a muffler because mine is actually really rotted. I went to put that muffler on. It's quite rotted. So I got a line on another muffler locally. But in the next video, I think what I'm going to do, I've got pretty much this all buttoned up. I've got to fix that negative tab on my fuel level sending unit. I got to get that dealt with, and then I'm going to actually get the box back on the truck. That's going to involve a little bit of stuff because if you remember way back, there's some broken off bolts I've still got to drill out of that thing. So I think the next video, I'm going to try to get this, like I say, get that box bolted on here. I'll still have access to the carburetor and everything to get that done because it does seem to work just fine. It's just that carburetor is the issue. So yeah, with that said, thoughts and comments down below. Think about subscribing. The numbers are still going up. That's awesome. Really appreciate that. So yeah, thanks for watching and have yourself a great day.